Hello and welcome to the webinar going over our annual district reading plan. And I'm Timmy Spangler, Director of Instructional Materials and Library.
And I'm Danny Calvin, Director of Elementary ELA.
And we are going to walk you through the annual district reading plan step by step. So we have on our PowerPoint some really important information because we get questions from districts, and so I'm going to kind of go over this and then we're going to actually go into a plan and take it step by step. So when you do there's two different portions when you go in to do your district plan. And so the first thing that's going to have to happen is you're going to have your superintendent is going to have to sign into the login and go into the district side of it. And so there, your users, this is why we have this for you to look back on. You have a district superintendent who has access, and then you have district users who have access. And so like at the elementary level, that may be the principal has access, the RSA coordinator has access, you may have a teacher that's assigned that has access. So there's different levels of access that's available in this report. The district superintendent user is the only person who can sign the assurance statement and certify the plan for the entire district. So if you have 5 elementaries, Danielle, they have 5 different site plans, and those site plans have to be finished before your superintendent can go on and certify for your whole district.
That is correct. We have to make sure that those plans are completed before he could certify them, or she.
Okay, so talking about access, we at our office, that means Danny, myself, Sharon, Dion, Vicky, we cannot give you access to the single sign-on. So this is done at the district level. So there are multiple people who can have access to the plan, but at different levels of use you can do different things. So for example, if you are the RSA coordinator and you have access to your site plan, you can input the information, but you can't certify that. The principal is going to be the only one who can certify the site plan, or not certified, I guess I should use the word confirm. So, but the RSA coordinator or the reading specialist or the teacher assigned can input that information and save it. So then the principal who has that access to confirm that plan can go in and confirm the site plan. So if your school has 5 elementaries that do RSA, then all 5 of those sites have to have their information input, and it has to be confirmed by the principals at each site. And once that happens, then the superintendent comes in and he can go in and make sure that all the district information, which I'm going to walk you through in just a minute, is input and saved. But the superintendent is the only one, and I'm going to go back here. If you can see, the superintendent down here is the only person who can do the assurity statement. And when I say that, I know sometimes in big districts that the superintendent gives that information to someone else. But the only way that the district for all of your sites can be completed is you have to have the sites done first, and then the superintendent can go in. If they have already been confirmed, the superintendent can go in and do the assurity statement and certify it. And so we hope that we have made things easier this year. Last year, lots of problems, Danny, lots of problems. You had to go in and certify each section of that plan. And so now that's not what we have to do. Okay, so we're going to walk you through step by step. So and we are in a test mode here, so you're going to see school names, but this is just, we haven't opened this so we can show you from the very beginning what you're supposed to do. So you're the first person to go in, and so I'm the superintendent, and I'm going to go in, and there's going to be 3 questions you're going to have to answer.
You need to make sure that you click on each question accurately, make sure that you have your information and that you know the answers to those.
So we're going to look at the first one. Have all site plans previously been approved by us? Well, yes. We spent a lot of time last year doing that, didn't we?
Yes.
So are all your sites meeting 100% of the RSA goal calculator? And what that means, guys, is that everybody in your school met RSA criteria without good cause exemptions or probationary promotions. So
that's the only way you can click yes on this
so
question.
we're going to say no. Because if you click yes and it's not yes, then you can't get to your site plan on all of them. So, and then the last question.
Are your sites exempt from the priority or focus schools list through the school support office?
So, Danny, even if 100% of my kids meet that, but I am on I'm a focus school because of my low scores for my special ed students, then I still have to do a plan, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to say no here, and I'm going to hit save. And so now it says to select the submissions that are available. There are no submissions. So I'm going to go here to my plan overview. Okay, so we have answered our questions, and now we've got into our district plan overview. And up here is where you're going to have to go in and put in your timeline for your district. And then you're going to have for your district on your RSA funding and how you're going to spend that and who to contact. So we're going to go through the site plan now. So I'm going to go down here, and because we don't have anything, you're going to go to all statuses, and then you're going to see, so Cave Springs just has one elementary, and I'm going to hit select. And it's going to ask me, do I want to copy my plan from last year? And I'm going to say yes, because that's going to save you a lot of time.
That will save you a lot of time because it pre-populates some of the information from last year.
And so you will see over here that you're going to have to go to your leadership team. And if you've had teachers move in, teachers move out, or changes, this is where you will put them. And then you will return home. So once you've got everything, and make sure you click the primary contact, because when Danny and I go over these reports, if we have a problem, there's a problem on it that needs to be fixed, that is the person that we will call. And see, when you select, so this one has a person selected, and you see there is the number. So please make sure and have a correct number and an accurate email, because sometimes if we can't get a hold of people through phone, because sometimes that's hard during the day, we will email. So don't be thinking we're after you if we're sending you an email or we're calling, because we just have to get this done.
And just make sure that all of the numbers on there is updated, and contact information, just in case we're not able to get to that primary person.
That's
we may
right.
have to go to someone else on the list.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is our assessment and our goals. And so here is what we're looking for. When we open this up, we're going to be looking with it. If your elementary is a lower elementary and you have K through 2, I should be able to see K through 2 and the screening assessment. And if it's not one of the 13 board approved screeners, then you can't use it. So we're going to, then we would hit, for example, we would hit select, and we can come over here and we can read that in kindergarten they're going to use Dibbles next, they're going to do it in the fall, the winter, and the spring. They're going to progress monitor 3 days a week, and data will be used to determine which students need to be moved to Tier 2 and Tier 3. And so then we'll check all of those grades, because believe it or not, we put our eyes on every part of every report.
And so you can see that was already pre-populated because we loaded it from last year, but please check your information to make sure that it's accurate.
That's right, because a lot of times people will change screeners. So then we go to our core reading program, and if you have new reading programs, you will need to go in there and literally, for example, click and enter the new information, because that is not in the drop down for our new approved materials. So that's what you do here. The professional development, and this is one where we literally have to call or email a lot of people. So you have to provide some form of professional development for reading if you have a school that's kindergarten through third grade. And so if you leave that blank, you will get a phone call or an email from us. So that's something that has to be done. Then we go to our reading block, Tier 1, and you need to list your grades and your duration. And
it has to be at least 90 minutes.
That is correct,
You cannot
Nanny.
have any time under 90 minutes.
Because that is the law.
Yes.
And so Tier 1, remember, should be 90 minutes uninterrupted, and that is the way it is. And so if you have anything, you can have more, and that's fine, but it has to be the 90. And so we will be looking for that. And then when we get to the parent-guardian communication, there's things that you have on here. The first thing is they have received written notice, because not only do you might want to call them for a meeting, but they also have to have written notice within 30 days of their screener if your child is not meeting benchmark. So the first few things we've talked about are pretty straightforward, pretty much the same for all grade levels. And then we get to our interventions outside the 90-minute reading block. And this is where we do have to make some phone calls. So you will have, of course, your grade. And every grade that you have at your school should have a Tier 2 and should have a Tier 3 check for all of the grade levels. So if you have if you have kindergarten through third grade, you should have kindergarten through third should all have something listed for Tier 2, and kindergarten through third should all have something listed for Tier 3. And so we do have a list that you could, for example, if I went in here, you can see that Tier 2, they're using West Virginia Phonics, and that they're having their paraprofessionals are working with those students. They're doing that daily for 30 minutes. Now, was it a couple years ago, Danny, that they changed Tier 2? They've changed the requirements for the frequency and duration of Tier 2. So you could do 30 minutes, and then the second week you might only need to do 20 minutes.
What it states now is that we are doing the direct duration and frequency for the student depending on the needs of the students. So we want to make sure that we're serving the kids and giving them what they need.
Right. We don't want a kid to be in kindergarten to be put in. They didn't go to pre-K, and we put them in Tier 2, and we leave them there all year long.
Yes.
Because we want them. The whole goal is to get them in
and get them out.
Yeah, and
it
so
should be fluid.
Now, with that being said, the duration and frequency of Tier 3 has not changed. And in the law, that states that for Tier 3 intervention, that is going to have to be 45 minutes to an hour daily.
Outside of the 90-minute block.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Thank you for reminding me of that. So here, this is something we would check. On Tier 3, this is reading mastery intervention, and it is with the classroom teacher. And, we know that we are in tough times, and not everyone has the ability to have, but, if you have an aide that can help you, probably you should not put if you have an option, the aide should be working with your Tier 2, and I highly recommend that you have a certified teacher working with your Tier 3 students.
Yeah. Those are the students that need the more skilled instruction and targeted instruction, so we want to make sure that the instructor, whoever is providing that, has a quality base and information to provide what's best for the students.
Yeah, and even with those tier 3 or tier 2 kiddos, if you're going to use an aid, have your reading specialist or your RSA coordinator.
Yes.
You can do a little
training or provide resources for them.
20 minutes, and they can be ready to rock and roll with those kiddos. So once you have all of that information in, because this is something, the first thing we will do at this before we do anything is we're just going to glance. Does every grade at your site have a tier 2? Does every grade at your site have a tier 3? So I'm going to give you a scenario. Last year I called a school because they didn't have a tier 3 for their kindergarten. And so I called and I talked to, I can't remember if it was the principal or if it was the RSA coordinator. I said, well, we don't have anyone in kindergarten in tier 3. And so I said, well, you still have to have something listed, because when you do your midterm benchmark, you might have someone in tier 3. And so we need to know what you're doing. And so that's why we even if you don't have any students at that time that are in tier 3, that doesn't mean that you won't.
Yes, and we want to be proactive. We want to make sure that we have things in place that when those students fall behind that baseline, we have something already set up in place of how we're going to serve those students.
That's right. Okay, and so this is all you have to do to get your site plan. And so once you have the site plan, if you are the RSA coordinator and you've input all this information, and so then the principal will go in and confirm the site. And at that point, if it's only one site, then you can hand the baton. If you're the RSA coordinator, you've handed it to the principal. The principal's done it, and then it's time to contact the superintendent.
Yes.
And that's when the superintendent will come in, and the superintendent or the designee for the superintendent, they will input the information for the timeline and for the funds.
But remember, the superintendent cannot certify until all of the sites in that district have been confirmed. So you need to make sure that all of those sites are confirmed. You don't want to be the school that's holding your district up.
Yes, and the funny thing about these RSA plans, funny and kind of sad, is that everybody has to have their plan in and finished, and everybody has to have their beginning of the year in. So there was a time a couple years ago when RSA funding was late getting to districts, but state aid can't process that until everybody has their stuff in and approved. And
those numbers are what we go by to make sure that everyone's getting the correct allocations.
That's correct.
And we want every district to make sure they're getting their correct allocations.
So once you've done the site plan, which we just walked through, then the superintendent will, or his or her designee will get in this information over here, and then they will they'll have to do an assurity statement. And then they can certify the whole district. So we've tried to make it a lot easier this year. I believe last year you had to certify each portion of the plan, and so now we don't have to do that. So that's a good thing. So if you need help, here's who you can contact. You can contact Danny,
Sharon,
myself,
Dion, or Vicky.
And we will all be more than happy to help you. Thank you.